Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about yet another game developer who is basically going to Twitter, exposing their opinion, and it's not even the fact that really, game developers are sharing their opinions. That's already kind of bad enough considering how most of them are completely tone deaf when it comes to these kinds of comments, and it's just more or less another addition in the long winding road that we've seen over the last few years of game developers seeing other games get attention that they didn't work on, seeing other people's projects be successful in some degree, and these game developers always got to come and try to tear them down, man. It's always incredible to see that happen, right? You'll see the true colors of a lot of these game developers once a game releases from a company they didn't work for and is actually getting people talking. Then all of a sudden, you know, it's really weird how that works in the gaming industry. There are so many professionals in the gaming industry who have worked for many companies. I mean, like the person we're talking about today. This guy was like a team lead on World of Warcraft. You know, he worked at Blizzard before the Activision acquirement and everything. So, this guy has some pretty major experience in the gaming industry. It's not like this is some random one-off indie dev who's never made anything that anyone's played, right? This is somebody who knows how the gaming industry works. At least he knew how it worked 15 years ago or whatever, right? So, as many of you know, Starfield, its release is coming up, okay? So if you haven't heard about Starfield, I believe Bethesda is the one behind this project. I think it's their newest universe that they've come out with in 25 years, meaning that this is like a brand new IP, right? And it's like a space exploration RPG. Very promising from what we've seen, you know, from the things that have come out about this game. There's a lot to be excited for. A lot of people are obviously hyped for this game. Me, I'm on the, you know, cautiously optimistic train. This really does seem like on paper it could be a phenomenal game, right? This could be an amazing project, and Bethesda is very capable of pulling a game like this off. Now, their execution on other games indicates to me at least, hey, maybe we should wait a little bit, but when the game comes out, I do anticipate purchasing it day one and playing it. And a lot of people are, I think, on that train, but of course, you know, your purchasing opinion may be heavily swayed about what we're about to talk about, because apparently, according to disgruntled game developers, we need to pick on the loading screen for this game, the start screen, if you will. Because, you know, video games, there's nothing to actually critique their merit on, right? It's not like you can wait for the game to come out. I believe it comes out September 6th. You can't wait and actually play the game and figure out if it's a good game then, right? Because that's not how social media works. You gotta be the first person to be talking about it. If you're not the first person to complain about something or bring something up, well then how are you gonna go viral on Twitter, right? So, the physiognomy of start screens. The start screen of a game can reveal a lot about how rushed the team was and how much pride they took in their work. Starfield's start screen either shows hasty shipping deadlines by a passionate team overworked or a team that didn't care. And as you can see, I mean, the start screen here is extremely fucking basic, right? It looks to be like a still image with the Starfield logo, the Bethesda logo, you know, of course, your settings or whatever you want to mess with over on the left, and like an info panel on the top right. Now, yeah, this is literally the criticism that Starfield is already getting, right? We've seen fucking one loading screen in the game, and pretty much really nothing else to actually judge the game off of, and yeah, that's what we're fucking nitpicking, and that's what we're finding issues with. So apparently this start screen, I don't know, is just too fucking, it's too basic, it's too bland, right? Now, I don't inherently hate this take. If you look at this menu and you're like, you know what, this is too boring, this is too bland. I really get it, because especially in modern gaming, there's like a trend towards everything in the product having to stimulate you, right? Loading screens have big flashy animations and fucking massive amounts of budget thrown behind them to make them really insane or whatever. But honestly, for me, man, and I've been playing video games for 20 years at this point, so I've seen a lot of loading screens. I've seen a lot of start menus, and honestly, man, this really isn't that bad. I'm gonna come out and say it. I know a lot of people, you know, they have split opinions. Some people like it, some people don't. That's fine. But for me, this really doesn't seem out of the ordinary. This is exactly what I would expect. I don't know. For me, I'm more about hey, is the video game itself good? Is the gameplay good? Is the story rich? You know, are the controls and inputs and everything good, right? how do these things stack up, right? I'm not one of those people who I'm basing my fucking thought process behind the studio on like a loading screen. Now, I think the reason people have takes like this is because they're so used to like fucking major gaming franchises like Call of Duty and all these other ones now, just absolutely overloading the UI with not only pointless shit, but way too much shit, right? Like, you go look at some games now and, dude, you can't even tell what the fuck's going on. You got basic first-person shooters out here with menus that belong in, like, complex resource managing real-time strategy games and shit. Like, it just doesn't make sense, the direction that some games have gone, where, you know, once again, they put a bunch of money into the cool shit, but then they overload whatever it is that they're trying to do. So, to the point where menus get confusing and convoluted. I don't think most people want to deal with that. Like me, when I load up a fucking game, right? Like if I'm loading up Starfield, I don't care if the loading screens or the fucking like start menu has big flashy animations. I just want to play the game. I'm not paying $70 to fucking stare at the start screen and, you know, determine if there's enough content on that screen for me, bro. Like, it just seems like such a nitpicky thing to fucking care about, especially for a game that, by the way, hasn't even fucking come out yet. So, like, this might not even be the final screen. As this guy literally says in the next tweet that we'll take a look at here real quick, you know, this is one of the last things that's often focused on by game developers. So, start screens are often done at the very end of development. Teams are too busy making the core game. It's quite common for the start screen to completely change once the game is shipping or on patch 0. Teams that take pride want to put a good face forward and will often redo these prior to the game going live. So, what the fuck are we complaining about in the first place here, bro? Like, the game still has a couple weeks before it comes out. We already know that fucking studios are working on games now, literally up until the release date and even after the release date. Because most games, you know, they get the day one patch, they get fucking updates after that. Starfield will certainly be no different. If it is, especially, it is a Bethesda title, so there is just absolutely no way that this game is going to release and never get fucking touched ever again, right? So, now, it's funny because he says here, teams are too busy making the core game, and I don't know, for me, man, that's exactly what I want, right? Like, would I rather the studio be sitting around fucking worrying if Grums on Twitter is gonna find the start screen for the game to be adequate, or would I rather them be building new features and, like, actually fleshing the fucking game concept out? I mean, I think you guys already know the answer. That shouldn't even be one that I have to really sit here and fucking go into depth for you about. Anyone should want that. Like, I'm one of those people, if I can get a 10 out of 10 game, like just a fucking god tier, awesome game of the year competition type game, and the, I guess, start screen is a little underdeveloped, hey, guess what, man? I'm taking that game. But, you know, just to really hammer my point home, right? Here's some loadout screens from not only other Bethesda games, but some of the most acclaimed video games of all time, such as Skyrim and New Vegas, and then some other games also thrown in there if I can find those screenshots too, just to really show you that this isn't not only an industry standard like screen, but this is pretty much par the course for not only Bethesda, but for a lot of games in this genre. Like, this is pretty much what you would expect, so I don't understand this criticism in the first place. And the criticism makes a whole lot less sense when you look into Grums' history personally. Now, I did tell you, right? This guy was a team lead at Blizzard. You know, he worked on World of Warcraft and other very acclaimed games. It's not like this guy has no experience. It's not like he is just somebody talking with no fucking, like, any reason to critique, right? Like, this guy has done and worked on successful projects in the gaming industry. However, whenever he is essentially put as the full-on leader of a project, it falls the fuck apart. Now, he did great as a team lead or whatever at Blizzard. Yeah, you know, he did his job there. But of course, this is a billion-dollar company with a product, World of Warcraft in this case, that was already very well established. Like, the only thing he really could have done is tore down the fucking building that they had already put up, right? He didn't have any real chance to, like, make that franchise what it was. But then he went and founded his own game studio, right? Grums actually is one of the people in the industry who has started and worked on their own project. So he starts his own game company. They start working on a game, I believe it released in 2014. You know, you may have heard of this fucking blockbuster here, right? It's called Firefall, and here's the intro UI to Firefall, man. So, really nothing more to it than the Starfield one. I mean, there's, I guess, some sort of animation playing in the background, that's about it. But, you know, this isn't got all the fucking bells and whistles and whatnot either. So, pretty funny that he's, like, the guy talking about how, oh, start screens have to be so good, bro. And then his game start screen looked like, you know, the fucking load screen of like a Roblox game. And the reason that you probably haven't heard of Firefall or ever played it in your life is because this game was a massive fucking failure. So the game developer on Twitter, who, when he had his own project, it completely crashed and burned, and he basically failed his way out of the industry, that's the guy telling Bethesda, one of the most acclaimed video game developers of all time, how they need to develop their start screens. And that's really what I think the problem is with a lot of these game devs, right? You see the clear-cut jealousy in everything that they say. A lot of these guys that we, you know, make fun of for their takes on Twitter and shit, they are more or less has-beens, right? They maybe were really decent in the games industry 20 years ago when it was a wildly different industry than it is today. Like, it's obviously not the same industry. The way monetization works, the expectations for video games, the process of making games is a lot different and more complex. There's just so many different elements that are wildly different than when this guy was fucking relevant in the gaming industry, but he wants to sit around and tell everybody how they need to work shit. Like, imagine a guy, right, who the last time he worked in the fucking video game industry was back on the NES, right? Him coming around and he hasn't done shit in the last 35 fucking years, right? He hasn't made a game, hasn't successfully ran a project, nothing really, right? But he's going around telling everybody what they need to be doing, right? It just doesn't make any fucking sense. So, I don't know, man. I wanted to hop on here and make this video for y'all real quick, though. So, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, talking about Starfield's intro menu and signing out.